Greetings, and welcome back once again. This is Amuna. We are going to get started shortly. I pray everybody is doing well. Welcome to the conversation. What do you bring to the table? We're going to give a little minute for everyone to come on in. We're going to have a little open mic discussion, if you don't mind, as my peas are stewing in the pressure cooker. You understand? We'll be back. All right, all right, all right. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Amuna, and I pray everybody is doing well who is listening and who will listen to this broadcast. You know, this week has been interesting, haven't it? Happily, we have accomplished some of our goals. Hopefully, we have met some of our expectations. Hopefully, we have grown and elevated in some degree. Hold on a minute. What's this? Hold on, y'all. I'm messing with the what you call it here. Today, I wanted to talk about it's Friday, but my daughter's doing her homework on the other computer, so I don't have any lighthearted thing that I want to talk about. But to some degree, this one will suffice, which is the what do you bring to the table? Judah, welcome to the discussion. I've heard this on and on with all the relationships. Many people, not everybody, many people are consuming relationships, man woman relationships, who's hating on us, who's doing this, that. I mean, all over the internet, everywhere, YouTube, right? And one of the questions oftentimes in these podcasts, relationships is, what do you bring to the table? You know, and people and the adults are consumed with money and monetary value, and are you going to steal my money, and this person divorced, and they're not entitled, and hearing the men's perspective of why they're not getting married because the woman's going to steal their money. At the same token, I'm gonna talk a little bit about that part before the table, right? I heard, I think it was O'Shea Juke Jackson. I wanted to review the video, but again, too much energy right now. I think it's one of the actors who did. His name's Anthony somebody. Y'all help me out. He does Blackish. His name escapes me, Anthony something. And his wife of 20 something or however many years, they're getting divorced. And they're like, what did she do? I'm trying to see what she did. Her whole, relationship when she was with him. And why would she be entitled to his money? What did she do? And I'm thinking, this goes back to why the woman in many cases stepped outside of the home, because society does not value, for the most part, the work that is done in the home. So when a woman is either a housewife, or she supported her husband, or she was there emotionally, or she helped raise the children, when it's all said and done, many people, because what she did not have public, quote unquote, value or marketplace value, many people say, well, she doesn't deserve that. At the same token, there are many people running around, many men running around saying, well, if I get a maid to cook, to clean my house, and a chef to cook my meals, and blah, 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 to blah, 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 what do I need you for? All of those occupations that they name would have to get paid. But oftentimes the wife who's in the home does not get paid. And so this is, people don't understand, this was feminism. No, it's common sense. And then I'm going to get to the what do you bring to the table conversation, and the spin that I'm gonna hopefully put on it, right? Because as I was thinking about it, I was coming from another way. But I've said this before, and I'm willing to have this discussion with people if they're willing to be honest. You can't have it both ways. You cannot say that her money doesn't value and have any value to you. I heard that today. And you need her to be supportive. But in the way in which she's being supportive, there is no retirement for her. She did not pay into Social Security. She was not known in the marketplace. She didn't bring value to the marketplace. Therefore, anything that happens to you, she is very vulnerable, because she did not build up in the same way that you build up yourself in the marketplace. She did not build up herself in the marketplace. So on one hand, you can't say, you can, but it doesn't make sense to say that she's coming for you and she wants all of these things and she's a gold digger. And it's basically, you know what it's like? It's like being an undocumented worker. To a certain degree, you want to be an undocumented worker. You have no benefits, or a scab or somebody. You have no benefits. You can't go and say you worked for this person. All of these things, you're putting out all the energy, all the effort. And at the end of the day, when you go to court, the court of social opinion is going to say, you didn't earn anything. What did you do? You were just doing your job. So it's kind of weird. I think if people, as they're having these conversations, especially the ones that are my age, a little bit older, but especially my age demographic, and the ones who can be a little bit behind us, there's this whole, I make money, I do this, I don't need family. I don't know how many people have driven on the streets, looked in ads, Seen little sale signs. Around here, we see things called estate sale, okay? Where all of the things that you thought were so important, all of the material possessions that you collected. I just saw one the other day. All of the prized possessions that you amassed, it goes up for something called an estate sale, right? That you valued all of these material things more than you did other human beings, the relationships and the exchange energetically that you had with people in and around you. You valued the thing so much that it's going to go to some stranger who's trying to get a deal. Some stranger who knows nothing about anything, who says, "Oh, this is cute. This is nice. I can flip it. I can make a buck on it. I can put it in my." Who knows what they want to do with it? My point being, I think we, to a certain degree, as a society, have lost our way a little bit. Y'all, let me know in the comment section that we have lost our way a little bit, because now money has become this idol. Money has become the god of many people. More so much so that men are unwilling, some, to have children because they fear their God, their money being taken away from them. That's interesting. And I'm seeing many other people of one nationality of another saying, "Hey, I'm going to just go plant my seed over here," not realizing that once you, the individual person, you went into a different whole community and thought that without the support of the other people in the community, that you planting your seed in someone else's yard was going to make, that was very short-sighted, is basically what I'm saying. Oftentimes when you see a gentrification move, the person has a plan to buy one building, and then two buildings, and then three buildings. And before you know it, their plan is to take over the whole block and the whole community. That's how gentrification works, right? But if you don't have the power and the ability to take over the community or the group that you're going to now infiltrate by impregnating and marrying into, then what you're basically saying is you're going to erase, to a certain degree, your heritage. Or am I tripping? Y'all let me know. You finish? Your plans is to erase. So this is what I'm looking at, the very short-sightedness of this whole conversation, because the generation before us was in this pivotal role. They were not settled. A lot of times we keep looking back at survival modes and how the person survived. They survived off of beans. Okay, that was the Great Depression. They was in survival mode, and that's how they survived. Let me know. Wait, because I know I'm going in, and sometimes I could be going in and my mic is not even working. So let me just double check my mic. 1 2 1 2. Yeah, it's working. Right? So the people may have been in survival mode, and that's how they survived. And in our foreparents, their survival mechanism, because of lack of access to certain resources, is a difference between people being together because they want to be together and people being together because they have to be together. For instance, when you are young and you go to college, to get a roommate, not necessarily because you want a roommate, it's because you have to have a roommate, because you can't afford to pay the bills by yourself. Therefore, a lot of college students get roommates so that they can split the responsibilities. That's a need, not a want, right? But when you get older and you're able to manage, the chances are you're not just going to get a random roommate just because. Now, if we look at the housing crisis today and we look at the classified ads, you see a lot of people who have their own home, who have furnished it and had it for years. Now they got right back into that college situation where they could no longer afford the rent or the mortgage. And guess what? They're open to roommates, not because they want one. I know it's sad and crazy to say, but a lot of times we're looking back at relationships that were formed out of a necessity of survival, as opposed to a wanting and a desiring to be with that person. It's very different. And therefore, you can see, once the people see that, hey, I don't really need to be with this person, you will see the person making another choice. So to compare the two, I think it fails in comparison, because the situation is different. And now what's happening is that when people are now, women and men, are able to sustain on their own because they have education and they're able to go to get their jobs and be more successful, now it's a matter of want. And this is why we see some people opting to be single, men and women opting to be childless, men and women. Why? Because now the thought is, I don't need, it's not a necessity for me to be with this person, right? I want to be with this person, which makes it very different. Need gives off a different energy than want does, right? Need gives off a different energy, right? So welcome to those who just joined us. So that's kind of what I wanted to start out with is if we could possibly stay on topic, that would be, I know it's open mic, so let me put the link in the box. Now, to the question, what do you bring to the table? Hold on, people are walking around. Hold on 1 second. You guys, hold on 1 second. Let me play a little something. My son just came, and let me see what's going on with him. Yeah, I'm back. You know, the issues of children. Yeah, so now he made me forget what I was saying. Let's talk about what do you bring to the table, since that's along the lines of why people come together. So people oftentimes, what I'm hearing is just a short-sightedness, because if you do not multiply, if you do not, if you do not foster children, if you do not sow into society and humanity, then that's it. That part of the branch, that part of the tree is cut off. So I'm seeing people swap financial stability, quote unquote, for, especially men in a lot of the vocal ones, I will say, financial stability, partnership and companionship for monetary gain, right? And they're willing to do so because they don't trust women in this day and time. Okay, so wait, Tukoya, just wait, baby, just wait. So that is very, very interesting stuff. Let me come and see what's being said in the chat. And so what do you bring to the table? Oftentimes goes with, what can you do for me? It's like a business transaction, a business deal. You sit down to make a deal in exchange, and it's like, what can you do for me? And if the person doesn't value what you have to offer, it doesn't mean that what you have to offer is not valuable. It just means that that person does not value what you have to offer. So if the woman says, I make my own money, and the man does not value that, then that's not something he's looking for. This conversation going around of sex, language, and silence is what some of the men are saying is what they desire in a mate. That's going to be the optimal mate that they're looking for. And essentially, if you cannot feed the person, pleasure the person, and be quiet, then you don't have any value. Now, we know that is not, hopefully we will know, that is not the intent for the creation of women. If it was, then she would be mute. Okay, she's not mute because she was not created to be quiet. But people oftentimes want people that are easily manipulated. They can do and bend to whatever they desire so that they will make the road easier. That is not why the woman was created. I did a lot of conversations about that in times past, but for the sake of time, let's see. Judah says, speaking for myself, I'm providing for my family, all praise to the Most High. I was looking for a likable man to simply spend time with and grow. However, some men these days are not likable. Share more about that, because these days, a lot of things are going left. You know what I mean? Some cannot have a conversation. This is true. Make a woman feel as if her femininity is safe around him and his folks, nor even cause her to not want a day to go by without hearing from him. It's like we have more peace, happiness, and tranquility without them, and it should not be that way. That's absolute facts. And some men may say, I feel the same. You know what I mean? It could be said on both sides that the connection or it's no longer complementary, and one would argue if it ever really was, in the sense of the way society, the way the woman was groomed, it gave the appearance that people were being comparable or complementary to one another. But now one would say, some would say that the woman is wild and she's unkept and she's unbridled, right? And she's out here saying and doing what she wants. And that's what's making the relationship unbearable. But in reality, one person's nature was tamed and the other person's nature was not. And so in this situation, both persons' nature is unbridled, because in times past, it would be said men would be men and the woman had to be bridled, right? So I think some of her society is no longer pressuring her to be quiet, no longer pressuring her to sit down, no longer pressuring her to have 100 children. And so therefore, because the woman changed in many people's mind and not the man, that's the problem. But I think to some degree, the problem was that it was an imbalance from the beginning in the way that they were relating to one another. They weren't necessarily relating optimal. So I can definitely understand. What are you bringing to the table? I have a thought on it, but let's see, John. Wrong again. John says, Amuna, wrong again. When men say we want silence, doesn't mean manipulate. No, I'm just saying what I've seen, John. You've seen what you've seen. What the issue comes sometimes is you try to negate somebody else's experience, and that's where the problem comes in. You can speak from your experience. I'm a whole grown person. You're a whole grown person. We're thinking because we never heard your voice. So therefore, I've had my own life experiences. You've had your own life experiences. You can say from your experience to the people that you've been exposed to what the man's is. But to speak for every man and what he means when he says what he says is not necessarily 100%. You know what I mean? Because some people do not want you to say anything, period. So it's not necessarily going to straight negative. Silence means cooperation. It's he says with his competent leadership, not undermine everything he does. It's very different to undermine somebody else, what somebody's doing, and having a thought process on what the person is doing. All of these things, you may have a foolish person. You may have gotten into a relationship with a foolish man, and he doesn't want you to say anything. Or you may, like what you're saying, you may get into a relationship with a man who doesn't want you to undermine him. Everything is not across the board, because every man is not the same. In the same way, every woman is not the same. Every culture is not the same. So to say that wrong again, as if every man is going to look at it the way you're saying it, yeah, I don't agree with that. Yeah, at this time, because of what is going on, like I said, the nature of the man historically, if we go back 200 years, 300 years, it was accepted. The man is going to be a man. He's going to do this. He's going to have extracurricular families and children all over the place. He's going to cheat. This is the thought, that the acceptance to let this person be who they are. But on the other side, it was said for the woman, because what the problem is, to what I'm observing, is today the woman is also unbridled. So he's like, whoa, wait a minute. You don't get to do what I do. What are you doing? Right? She was in the girdle. She was in the waist trainer. She was the one who was holding back who she was. So now both parties, male and female, are out here wilding out. They're out here wilding out. So to what do you bring to the table? So, like I said, what are your thoughts? What comes to mind when people say, what do you bring to the table? I've heard what many of them are saying, and it's often centered around material possessions and how compliant you are, right? And the reality is, if we're going to be honest and look at the situation on the macrocosm and the microcosm, in the macrocosm, the melanated, we're going to just talk about melanated men here in the Western Hemisphere, are not in a position, not in an overall leadership position for her to wholly trust that when she moves outside of this sphere of the home, she's going to be protected. Or when she moves outside of the sphere in the home, she's going to see other people in leadership positions that represent who they are, and that the system is going to move smoothly. For instance, if a person of European descent moves outside of their home, they may see a judge that looks like their grandfather, They may see the police officer that reminds them of their uncle. They may see somebody in power who that person in power may say, oh, you remind me of my daughter. So even though the person is not related to you, you see people who represent you in the broader society, not just here and there, but across the board. And so you feel more comfortable, you know, to some degree, saying, hey, this person is leading me in the right direction. But if you are in a relationship with and building with somebody who historically has been, as some would say, the underdog, the underclass, the one who's always fighting and striving to get to some place. And even when you get to the place, it's not fully what it's supposed to be, because you may be king in the castle, but once you go outside, you're still the servant. That creates a problem in the mind of the woman. So there's to some degree, people are saying undermine. How, if you don't think and consider, then you may set yourself up when you go outside, because it doesn't apply. It doesn't translate when you go outside. That's just being honest about the society that we're living in. Listen, majority of men want the same thing in a relationship, biologically speaking, just like women hate wearing the pants in a relationship. This person is broken mentally. I know, we're just gonna continue the discussion. So when I hear what do you bring to the table, based on the fact that I study a lot about spirituality, study a lot about the soul, study a lot about energy and karmic return, my thoughts is, people over here talking about, I need somebody who make $100,000. What if that person is bringing karmic debt to the table? What if they look good on paper? What if they are, like, I spoke to somebody in recent times. This is a real story. This happened this week. And as she was talking to me, I'm like, wait a minute. She's telling me what's going on. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. I'm seeing something here. And it came to my mind. You may get into a relationship with a person. Yeah? And you may be with a person or want to get in relationship. And on paper, they're handsome. They got a full beard. There's no spot. There's no patchy places in their beard. She got her own eyebrows. You feel me? That's her real butt. And on paper, it looks great. But what else is she bringing to the table? Ancestral debt. She's bringing generational curses. It may not show on the beginning. He's bringing abandonment issues. It's somewhere they're bringing a lineage of, you just fill in the blank. Truthful perspective. Welcome to the conversation. You fill in the blank. And when you merge with this person and with this familiar line, you now inherit their issues and their problems and the thing that they brought to the table. This is when you go to the Bible, you go to the Torah, it says, and I always say this because this helped me to unravel a whole lot of stuff in my life. It took a long time. Where you're like, what is this? What is going on? It helped me it says that it's simple and it's a law of return, right? It says the Creator will revisit the iniquities to the third and fourth generation. Iniquities being revisited, that means in each generation, this iniquity, whatever it is going to pop up. So when you sit at the table with this brand new person who looks absolutely great on paper and you have no spiritual discernment, you now are going to go into a financial, emotional, spiritual agreement, a business partnership with this person and their family, regardless of you think you don't need their family's permission, regardless if you think it's me and you against the world and you Bonnie and Clyde. You go into, not only do you produce children, you produce more than children in this relationship, right? So when people are talking about what you're bringing to the table, the person could be as compliant as they want to be. They could look absolutely beautiful on paper. But when you actually get beyond that and you in the wedding ceremony and you don't even, some people are not even getting married these days. So you ain't even married. But once you join in a union with this person in any capacity, you now are dealing with their issues. Some people have dark spiritual passes. It may not be that particular person, but it may be somebody in that lineage who has done things that are off, that are revisiting this familiar line until that wrong is made right. But I hear way too much of the material things of what people are bringing to the table, and not the fact that they may be bringing way more than you're willing to deal with at the table. When women do what men do, they get angry. If you had to go out and work while your husband was getting taken care of by you, that would make you divorce him. Huh? What? You know why I think this men-woman conversation makes no sense? I'm not telling people to man to do what women do and women to do what men do. I think that's off the wall because they were not created to do the same thing. What is happening in today's space and time is that people are comparing apples to oranges. To me, that's a non-conversation. It doesn't make sense. They were not designed to do the same things. Now, I'm going to have to get a little biblical on y'all because I'm getting ready for my rest day. But to my understanding, it says, by the sweat of his brow he shall eat bread. The man in today's space and time is resentful. And not only today, for a long time has been to a certain degree resentful and indifferent about his lot and position in life. It says, by the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread. Right? The woman, she brings forth the child. Both people have their weight and of responsibility, but it is in a different place. Now, I'm not saying that we cannot help one another, but this whole switcheroo that's happening is part of the problem. Now, the man, because the sweat of his brow, his work and his labor is what is given access to sustenance to stay alive. He, because he had that ability, was controlling the narrative and controlling the woman, because without him, she would dead for hungry. If you don't think I'm serious, just look at places where there is no welfare system. Look at the continent, look at Asia, look places where there is no welfare system. When the woman does not have direct access to resources, she is on the street begging for food or selling front. You understand what I'm saying? Her and her children. When she becomes a widow, she's out in these streets trying to eat. Why? Because the thought process is the man has direct access to resources and she has to depend on the man for direct access to resources. In first world countries now, they're like, yo, this is not going to work, because while he was in a position that, let's be honest, over many generations, it was exploited. I'm going to use this position to exploit the people who are dependent on me. That what has historically been done. Because you're in the position to have direct access to resources that people need to stay alive, then all the rules began to change and things became very unjust. So when we say that feminism came along, there would be no, at first, these feminists in America did not want to go and do the man's job. They wanted to have a certain level of presence. They wanted their voice to be heard. But the thought was, oh, you don't vote, you don't own land, then you are a nobody. And that's where a lot of the problem come in. But some people will say, nah, Mona, you tripping. And you can say that too. You can say that too. So I don't agree with switching, and I don't agree with the woman doing what the man do and the man do, because what I see is that when the woman stepped out of position, for instance, I watched a show on, it's a series on, the History Channel. It's called The History of Food in America or something like that. Food That Made America, something like this. And I've said many years ago that when the feminine principle, the nurturer, when she stepped out of position or was pushed out, whichever one we want to say, and the man solely now became responsible of the preparation of the food, it moved from nourishment to financial gain and prosperity. And if you don't believe me, just watch that series. They talk about Hershey's, they talk about the frozen food, Bird Eye, they talk about McDonald's, they talk about Burger King. When the woman was no longer in the home, or the feminine principle, preparing and nourishing the food, it wasn't about nourishment anymore. It was about profit. And you see that the food was adulterated. You see all of these additives and things that are put in the food. And now we are in the position that we are in because things got out of place. People no longer have time. The microwave came in because why? They developed the microwave, and that's also spoken about, frozen TV dinners, and all of these things, because no one had any time anymore. She had no time anymore, and she's not home anymore. So all of this stuff got turned upside down. And why wasn't she home? Why did she step outside? Because to a certain degree, she wasn't appreciated in the house. So I don't think it's just one part that really brought us to this point. It was a culmination. It was a combination of things that really brought us to where, when you say go back in the house and cook and clean for your children or your household, it feels or looks like you're trying to diminish the person. Why would you think it's trying to diminish the person? Because historically, you ain't nobody. You don't have no job. When you go outside, you have no work history, whatever. Hold on 1 second. John. Good morning, everybody. It's not even morning, it's afternoon. So who is society? Oftentimes people say society. This is going to be one of those. I haven't had one of these conversations anymore. Who makes up society? We say society like society is some other foreign entity that doesn't comprise of men and women. Who makes up society? People do. So when we say society, it's just another word for saying people, men and women. Men and women. That's who makes up society. And it wasn't the 80s and the 90s. This is happening way before. You ever watch two children playing, yeah? And you have two toys there. And the other person gets the toy that is seemingly more important, right? Or the color, or whatever it is, of crayon, whatever it is. That one child who didn't get that prized color or crayon is going to drop their crayon or their color or their toy and fight the other child for that thing. Why? Because the thought process is the one that you have has more value than the one that I have. So somewhere in this conversation, what the man had is thought to have had more value. His position was thought to be more valuable than her position. Therefore, she left her position to go wrangle with him for his position. If you observe children, if you observe you will see that this is a human condition. Someone told you that your position was not valuable. Therefore, you wanted to get direct access to resources so that you too can have this intrinsic value that you see is bestowed upon someone else. Why are we acting like we don't understand this? You know what direct access to resources means? This is what oftentimes, so Black businesses, or what they call Black businesses, is making complaint and noise about not having direct access to resources. I know of somebody here that it's a European guy. His father bought a premium place of land, gave it to the son. Son built a 3-story building on the thing, 3 stories of entertainment space, restaurant space, and all these things. Why? Because your father had direct access to resources. He bequeathed it on to you, and I'm hearing complaints like the food is nasty, the people don't like, but because he had the resources, it doesn't necessarily mean he had the talent. He had the ability and the resources. Some people can go and get direct access to resources, and others, no matter how talented they are, they do not have the direct access to resources. This conversation is about people no longer valuing what was being done in the home, or she had to jump through way too many hoops to get access to the things she needed. Therefore, she decided to go get it herself. I'm not saying right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm saying if we look at what's happened and we're being intellectually honest in this conversation, it wasn't just because forget them kids. You know what it is to raise children? A lot of people are talking out here who don't raise children or be present. You know how much energy it takes to raise another soul from the cradle to where they can fend for themselves? It's not a simple feat. You don't get paid. But if you go outside and you start a daycare, you get paid. If you're the cafeteria worker, you get paid. If you start a prep school, you get paid. You get paid when you do it for other children. You don't get paid when you do it for yours. If you look at many of these 50s and 60s and 40s and 30s, and the families and the woman is just having child after child, 5, 6, 7, 8, 50, 11 children, and their children are hungry with no shoes on their feet. That became a problem. As a parent, you don't, and you're depending on the person, which is the male, who has direct access to resources, and he's not living up to the expectation, and you are able-bodied. At some point in this conversation, you're going to say, I got to go do it myself. Is it something that the person necessarily wanted to do, or was it done because of a necessity? Again, but we don't want to be honest about what's going on and what has gone on. Oh, John. Now, I don't just come on my channel just lying all day long for that's the link in the box, John. Let me know when you're trying to come on and fix your mic so we can have the conversation. I didn't say women don't need men. I don't know if you're misinterpreting what's going on here. I didn't say women don't need men, so I don't know. I can't help you on that one. That's where listen to what you're saying. Feminism told women that since women have jobs, they don't need a man for a family, which is a lie. That is a lie, right? I'm not feminism, so I didn't tell women that, okay? Secondly, listen to what you're saying. You're saying exactly what I'm saying, and feminism is saying what I'm saying. If the man, by the sweat of the man's brow, he shall eat bread, right? Listen, I'm talking about, forget black and white for a second. I'm talking about humanity, because this happens all over the globe. Now, if the man, for his physical build and his aptitude, the way he was designed, he is supposed to go to get the direct resources that people need to sustain for life. So all these people running around, who built this? Who built that? Bruh, that's your job, fam. Congratulations. Thank you for doing your job. I mean, this is the whole, who's doing this? Who's doing that? Oh, that is your job. Thank you, honey. This is Amuna talking. If you disagree, I feel you. But on the heavy lifting, all of that stuff, that is what he's designed for. That is his job, right? So that's what he's doing. Thank you. Okay, I'm all about people in position doing what they were designed to do optimally. Somebody could be in a position that they weren't optimally designed to do, and even though they can do it, it's not, they would rather not, right? I was listening to someone else talk the other day about, what was I listening to? I don't know if it was a TED talk or something, because contrary to popular belief, I listen to a vast array of information. So I find it funny when this is a lie. Oh, okay. I think I was listening to a TED talk where, no, it wasn't a TED talk. I'm gonna tell you his name in a minute. His name is gonna come back to me. Oh, he's in the education field. And he was talking about what he observed over time in the lawyer profession, where you have brilliant women as lawyers, and they will push and climb to the top of the ladder in their profession. And then they get to about 30 and they realize, I don't want to do this anymore. And they will look to say now they want to, and the law firms are like, how can we keep these women, or why they keep leaving? Because after a certain point, and she's done what she came to do, she wants to, some people say nesting, she wants to nurture, she wants to do other things. You know where we saw this at? If people remember back in the 2000s, it was in the Girlfriends. Joan's character in Girlfriends, Diana Ross' daughter, what's her name? Tracee Ellis Ross. We saw that kind of, she got to a certain age, she was climbing the ranks in the law firm, and then she realized, I don't even want to do this anymore. And she went and opened a restaurant. And when he said that, it came back to my mind. My point being, she can do it. Does she want to do it to the degree that the man was to do it? Maybe she does, maybe she does not. So, but when he's in the position to provide for the household, but her position is not being respected, she feels insecure. So she has to go secure herself. If you get divorced after 22 years and somebody's going to look and say, what did you do? I don't think you're entitled to anything. Who's going to sit there and fight when you can actually provide for yourself? So these are some of the things I think we need to consider when we're talking about what people bring to the table, and how humans who actually quote, did something feels as though they have more entitlement to those who did not. If you flip it on the other side, oftentimes men are arguing about access to children. We see this with the Kanye situation. We see this with, why do women feel that they have more say with the children? Some will say, in the same reason the man feels he has more say with the money. That was her direct labor. That's her direct labor. That's how that may have planted something that helped germinate up the part of the seed that brought forth this child. But the labor, the direct, that's what they call it. When you give birth, you go into labor. The direct labor was from her body. In the same way, the direct labor, the manifestation of it, comes from the man historically. And so therefore he feels as though he has more say. Just a thought. The link is in the box, y'all. The link is in the box. Let's see, True Diamond. At my husband's job, he says many of the men say they're not getting with a woman who won't work. That tells me some women are still looking to be housewives, but some men don't want that. Exactly, because now we see that the stress, the responsibility is on him so much that he couldn't manage it. He gets angry, he projects, he transfers his aggression, he drinks, he wants to stay out all night, he wants to get lost in his video games, because it's just the same way that the pressure for the woman to be the sole caretaker of the children is too much. So when he comes home, she wants him to help. It's the same thing. Responsibility is weighty and it pressures people, whether it's responsibility to make sure you eat or responsibility to make sure that the home is put together. And this is why in this day and time, to my understanding, you see many people saying, I need you to pitch in. Because with what to whom much is given, much is required, right? So after a while, it's too much. It's too much. So you do have some people who want to be housewives, and you do have some people who are being housewives, and you do have some men who are being house husbands, and they're telling the women, well, you go do it for a change and let me know how that works out. But with that, you also see the woman oftentimes stepping into the role of the man, that I made the money, it's my house. And then she begins to take on what people are calling a masculine energy, but I think it's just an energy of the person who is holding the scepter to a certain degree, that now she gets to call the shots because she's the one who's making the money. So the same energy and spirit that the man had on him, the woman has on her when she's the one who has direct access to resources. The link is in the box, everybody. That's how I feel about being a mom and dad for my children. Sole provider of all things. Rather be a mom, sadly. Yeah. There's so many ways that people can get into the position that they are. Some people are out here pretending as though the woman was like, you know what I want to be? Although some women, a few have those who will say they don't need a man. But the majority of women who end up having a children are not running around thinking, I don't need a man. Some of them are still thinking, if I have the child, the man is going to stay. And you have them running around saying a child is not going to make him stay. So some women get into the space because they think that a child is going to make the man step up as a man, and oftentimes, sadly, he does not, or he finds himself in other positions that doesn't allow him to be the father, or he doesn't know how to be a father, he doesn't know how to be a husband, or he doesn't know how to do it well. You understand? And therefore, he would rather not than and leave all of the responsibility. This is something that has been happening. This is nothing new. Like I said, I came across a, what do you call it? What do they call it again? I came across a article that talked about, and I think I shared it here before, that talked about it was doing the statistics of the amount of melanated women. This is, like I said, this is across the board problem, but the amount of melanated women in the early 1900s that said they were widowed. And the person, they were writing an academic article talking about there's no way that all of these women were widowed. But what they found is that when the surveyor was coming by, one person says it, then many people began to say it, and they were really single mothers. Because contrary to popular belief, people have been getting knocked up and left for millennia. Okay, I don't know why we like to make believe and pretend, but it's okay. We'll continue. So as I was talking about what are we bringing to the table, there's a book I haven't tapped into a while, and I usually keep it in my car. It didn't start with you, right? How inherited family trauma shapes who we are and how to end the cycle. Um, when people are talking about what you're bringing to the table, just imagine this for a minute. If we incarnate in this life for the opportunity and the ability to resolve, to learn to resolve and to elevate from our current space of being to a higher space of being, to get better. Like when you go to school, you go to school each semester or each grade, you learn and you grow so that you can get a fuller understanding. If we come into this experience with that uh, goal in mind, right? And all of the experiences that we have, good, bad, or indifferent, the bad baby mama, the wicked husband, the wicked mother-in-law, the terrible, whatever, all of these things are learning experiences that's supposed to teach us. And some of them keep showing up because somewhere in our lineage, somewhere in our family line, either the person, if it's good, that means it's something that's coming back to us. But if it's negative and we perceive it as negative, it's something that's materializing because somewhere in our lineage, one of our ancestors, we like to talk about we stand on the shoulders of our ancestors, one of our ancestors or one of the people groups in our ancestors perpetrated a fraud or perpetrated this thing that trickles down into the generations until it's resolved. What if it's your job to resolve it? What if fighting everybody else about what they're supposed to resolve and what they're supposed to experience is wasting time that we cannot see, that we've been given an opportunity individually to make sure that we don't repeat this grade again? What if? What if? I don't know what to tell you, John. Like I said, what if this opportunity, every day that we open our eyes, we have an opportunity to elevate. And if we continue to choose, this is why, even if I'm talking about some type of celebrity or whomever, I always bring it back to home base, because if we do not, at the end of the day, when your house goes into what do they call it? Probate. Is it probate? When they're trying to find somebody who's going to take all of your belongings, when it's all said and done, the question is, did we do what we came here to do? I feel like bringing it on home today. Yeah, click the link. Truth said, I look at the communities that are more creator-centered. I learned from some of the Senegalese brothers who work, but their wives own the business in the community and they still respect each other. Right. There's many places you can still work in your capacity, and it's not easy, but you can still do it. In many places, like you say, you have the woman who goes to market. You'll have the woman who has her business and still takes care of her children. I remember used to go into flea markets. Like you're saying, some of the women from the continent, the child will be behind the counter doing his homework, and the mother's over there selling, Egyptian musk and shea butter. It's really how you think about working. Some people think, oh, you go out to work for somebody else. You can work for yourself. You can be set up in a way where you can earn things to get the things that you need and also be there for the family that you create. If you're at that stage, some people don't have children yet. Some people are beyond where they've already raised their children. But working is for everybody to do, but in what capacity? John, I'm not going there. John, you have not brought me one fact, so I'm not. You're gonna have to give me some information on that. I could pull the facts on what I'm talking about, but I don't know where you're getting that from. True Diamond says, my husband told me one guy's girlfriend broke up with him because he didn't make enough money. She had a standard of living taught to her by her father. Some men will try to convince a woman to stay with them. Yeah. We also have to consider, like you said, the standard of living, what you're asking her to accept, what you're willing to give, what she has to go through to get it. All of these things are going to determine, you can't see her in a certain condition. This is why sometimes some of the fathers will be like, no, not him, because the father sets the standard and the man cannot meet the standard. And the woman is more than often than not is going to be dissatisfied with her new arrangement. Again, somebody, I don't know if you've checked the resume, John. Again, I have facts. Right now, I'm just having a discussion. Like I said, the mic is open. I didn't write the article. You know what I mean? It's in the academic papers. I could give it to you. You're probably not going to look at it because I've given another things that you're not looking at. I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't need to hold on to the fantasy fairy tale of what our ancestors did, because there's a reality of what our ancestors did that got us to this point. I look at it beyond romanticizing the past. That's not going to get it, right? It's not going to get it. I've given you guys sites. You want to do a batch test? Do a batch test. Go onto the site that I gave you, familysearch.org, right? Go to any city that you want, okay? Go to a time period that you want. Pull the records. You can actually pull the records and see how many people did not have father listed on the birth certificate. I've looked at birth certificates going back to the 1800s, 1700s. I've come across a number of birth certificates that don't have father listed on it. So to tell me that single fatherhood is not until this present time, like I said, I don't have the time because I'm busy to do the length and give people the fullness of that I'm accustomed to giving them. But you can do the research. Everybody's on Google. Right now, we're on the internet. It's at your footsteps. Do the research. Give a space. Give a time period. Let's go there and see how many men's names were listed on the birth certificate. I've seen birth certificates where no man is listed. Usually back then, they're going to ask who was present during the birth, mother, father's occupation, mother's occupation, where the child was born. I've gone through, go look at it. Go look at it. There's plenty of people who didn't know who their father was. Plenty of single mothers. To the degree that it is now, no, because now it becomes socially acceptable, so people are doing it more and more. I ain't giving you no receipts, John, because John, I ain't never seen a receipt yet. My whole channel is receipts, John. What are we saying? John, my whole channel is receipts. Are we serious? Did you look at the 100 videos from the Left Project, John, where I give you nothing but books, references, and papers, John? Come on, I'm relaxing. Let me go check on my P's, y'all. John over here, you're not raising my blood pressure. Like I said, the information is there. The information is there. Oh no, now John changing the subject. Father help us. It's always good. Father help us, yo. Listen, the more we release the need to think we know, is the more open we are to learning. Like I said, I've learned so much just in allowing even the paper trail to give us an understanding of what was happening and what happened. There's people who are alive who was there and still don't know what happened. What you think? Oh, the parents were going around telling the children everything? Come on, man. Come on. Come on. Come on. They weren't. There's a lot of things that were happening that even I called my grandmother. I found out something through paperwork. I called her because I wanted to confirm. Hey, grandma, she's 94 years old. I'm like, yo, did you such as? She's like, I never know that. Nobody never told me. So again, we're pretending like the elders, those who came before us, told us everything that was happening. That stuff was oftentimes was hush, hush, and whisper, whisper. But I challenge John, respectfully, pick a place in America. You want South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia. Pick a location, John. Pick a location. Pick a time period. So we need to get a little specific. The 60s, the 50s, the 40s. Give a time period and let's do a batch test. Let's do a batch test. Let's do a batch test. If John don't want to do it, let's do it together. Y'all want to do it collectively together? Because I don't have no dog in this fight. In the sense of, if it is what it is. We came here however we came here. However we got here, here we are. So, that for me is neither here nor there. But if we're honest about human nature, which goes beyond black and white, that's a social construct that was formulated to deal with what we're dealing with now. If we go beyond that, you see in the Bible, hey, if a man does this, why? Because the propensity for the man to humble the woman and not marry her is there. I'm with children all day, Judah. Yep, that patience, boy. You get your clothes? Yeah. You know why? Because this is a mentality that, hold on, my daughter's here. I want to play a commercial. I'll be right back, y'all. Y'all stay right there. Do-do-do.
Internet.
Malaya. Yo, John, make sure you tell your peoples to go over to the yummycottage.com and get some syrup, sweet 16% off, not 16% off. John, go over to the Yummy Cottage and support the thing. You don't know we over here talking. That's one of the things. This is a real thing. Let's get it. Thank you for those who just joined us. My name is Amuna. I'm just chopping it up a little open mic while my peas is on the fire. Little stew peas. You don't know already? Nah, not anywhere. We don't need anywhere. We need a where. We need a place. We need some place. That's part of the sweeping generalizations that get us everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Let's pick a place. It's like, say, where you want to meet? I want to meet anywhere. Nah, where you want to meet? You want to meet South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia? Where you want to meet? Where you want to meet? Mississippi, Georgia? Where you want to meet? Because that we can't just put anywhere. Let's meet in a place, because that's how you do when you're going to go do research. Again, I've written books, John. I know how to do research. If I know how to do anything, I know how to do research. Okay? So therefore, anywhere is not going to work. Let's be specific. Let's be specific. Let's be specific. Let's be specific. I'll wait. For anybody who's just joined us, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that people bring to the table. I'm going to read the back cover of this book. This book is called It Didn't Start With You by Mark Woolen. How Inherited Family Trauma Shapes Who We Are and How to End the Cycle. Depression. Somebody may be bringing some depression to the table. Anxiety. Somebody may be bringing anxiety to the table. Chronic pain. Phobias. Afraid of this, afraid of that. Obsessive thoughts. I'm going to put some extra stuff in there because that's all they had. They may be bringing schizophrenia. They may be bringing certain chemical imbalances to the table. They may be bringing abandonment issues to the table. They may be bringing infertility to the table. They may be bringing all type of maladies that may be seen or unseen to the table. It says the evidence is compelling. The roots of these issues may reside in the traumas of our parents, grandparents, and even great-grandparents. You heard that? The latest research affirms that traumatic experiences put that down. It's not you guys. Is passed on to future generations, and that this emotional inheritance Hitting in everything from our gene expression to everyday language plays a far greater role in our health than ever previously understood. Building off the work of the leading experts in neuroscience and post traumatic stress, Mark Woolen has developed a pioneering approach to identifying and breaking these inherited family patterns. It Didn't Start With You is his accessible, pragmatic, and prescriptive guide to a method that has helped thousands of people reclaim their lives. So, why I keep talking about our ancestors, those who came before us, is that it didn't start with us. Okay? It didn't start with us. And a lot of what we're experiencing is inherited. Just the same way you can inherit land, property, house, this, that, you inherit all of the other things as well, good, bad, or indifferent. Yeah. Thank you, Positive. Thank you. Check out the spices after the Shabbat. That works, that works, that works. Yeah, generalizations. This is why you see me just keep coming back to the same point. Why? Because we can't move forward in a circular conversation if we throw everything off with generalization, refusing to prove the point wrong. We can say the person is lying, this and that, but if we're like, okay, let's put all that aside, open discussion, place, time, and location, and then let's go in. Then at that point, it's not about what I say or what you say, it's what the information is saying. So I'm still waiting on the place, the time, and and the location so we could go in. We could go in. You understand? Anybody else want to do it? Anybody else want to have a place, a time? Let's go and check out. Because what happens is all of these are logical fallacies. And shout out to John, he always comes through. But why we don't progress oftentimes in these discussions is because we have a number of logical fallacies that we employ when the conversation is not going our way, right? And the reason, this is what I think, I could be wrong, is that we are oftentimes people already married to or wedded to a thought or ideology. And if you move anything, or if anything seems to be out of place or needs to be corrected, one would have to bethink themselves, and that's going to mess up everything, right? And so therefore, when somebody's coming too close to something that is the very foundation of whatever it is that we believe, and they start messing with it, we have to start throwing off the conversation, take it over here, look over here, distraction over here, move the goalposts over here, false equivalency over here, all of these logical fallacies to make it look like we were in the argument. But when you say, all right, done with that. Since you say, I say it is, you say it ain't. All right, boom, let's look at it for what it is. Then it's like, why can't we just go look now? Let's go look. If you say it is 80%, 90%, if you say it didn't, then let's go look. And then what happens is, I've been doing this for a while, y'all. This ain't new. This is not new. What happens is, so the patience, this is new. The patience is new. I mean, I had to develop this patience. I dealt with many masculine energy. I was a host on a show for years that dealt with a lot of the problems and issues in our communities. And I've seen this all before. And I had to be the one to keep the conversation on two different sides. I'm the one in the middle, keeping the conversation on track. And so this is why, if you say, wow, Amuna, it was a lot of practice, right? And I know that we struggle with the things that we choose to believe because it makes us feel comfortable. And if somebody comes challenging that, it's uncomfortable. Yeah, this ain't my first rodeo, y'all. Nah, not at all. It's not our first rodeo. So even to this point, we don't have a time, a place, a date. We have the ability to go and look. We can pull names. Can somebody tell how many names I've read, how many stories we have read? Not just me, like, oh, I read it and I'm so smart and I have my 1,000 books behind me in the shelf so y'all could think how smart I am. No, we come and have the conversation collectively. I believe in having the conversation collectively because I don't want anybody just to believe what I'm saying. There's a lot of people who appear to us and be like, oh yeah, look at my 1,000 books I ain't never read. But yeah, ain't I smart? Nah, bruh. You just got 1,000 books behind you and a heavy Amazon bill. But that doesn't necessarily mean you went through the information and you went through the data. What time is it? 1:07. Okay, let me read a little bit. How many people want me to read a little bit of the 4 unconscious themes? Let me see what's going on here. The 4 unconscious themes. I gotta turn the light on, yo. How many people want to? Again, we're talking about what you bring to the table. I think I'm just gonna read one. Okay. All right. This is in chapter 5 of the book. The book, there's a quote, the most powerful ties are the ones to the people who gave us birth. It hardly seems to matter how many years have passed, how many betrayals there have been, how much misery is in the family. We remain connected even against our will. So that's why I said when you bring to the table, they bring in their granny, their mama, their daddy, the one they knew, the one they didn't know or know. They bring in the dog they love. We bring a lot to the table, not just $100,000 or more, right? So I'm gonna. Did you merge with the feelings, behaviors, or experiences of a parent? Right? It's a question. So I'll just, since we talk about what we bring to the table and how we bring our experience and our connection to our families to the table. Think back. Did one of your parents struggle emotionally, physically, or psychologically? Did it hurt you to see them suffer? Did you want to take their pain away? Did you try? Did you ever side with the feelings of one parent against the other? Were you afraid to show your love to one parent for fear of hurting the other? In your life today, do you struggle in a way similar to how your parents struggled? Do you recognize your parents' pain in you? There was a series of questions. Why is it important? Because you may attract a mate that mirrors. If you answer any of these questions truthfully or all of them truthfully, you and that pain is unresolved or that experience, you're going to attract a mate that is going to represent the parent you either identified with, you wanted to help, but you couldn't. You are going to attract a mate. So for instance, like we just see this whole Will Smith conversation. He writes the book. He saw his father punch his mother and he felt helpless. He identified with the mother. He never wanted to be like the father. But that unresolved trauma we saw manifest earlier this week when he took the role of the father who, in his confession, he wanted to push down his wheelchair and make him fall because of all the indifference. But eventually he became like onto the father, and Chris Rock becomes emasculated by him. And in that moment, he feels empowered. This stuff is deep, y'all. This stuff is the stuff I've been studying for 20 something years, because in it, I find liberty and understanding and healing that people, this is a healing moment. No, this stuff, you don't just be like, oh, I'm healed. It don't work like that. All of these questions that they just ask is what the person brings to the table. So when somebody's asking, what do you bring to the table? Some people say, well, were you molested? This happened, this happened. All of this trauma, all of this pain, or even the good experiences. Some people have good familiar experiences, right? And then they attract a bad mate. And you're like, wait a minute, you're not making any sense. How did they attract a bad mate when they had good familiar experiences? Something in that mate was attractive. So something in you manifested this mate into your reality. And it may be something in the subconscious that you don't remember, but here you are. So if you are loving the experience, then it's good repayment. If you're not loving the experience, or if you can't attract a mate, or if you're lonely and no one comes near, that may be something. That's the energy you're giving out. Some people are mad and indifferent because they can't attract the mate. Or if they do attract the mate does not stay. Or they don't feel safe enough to be vulnerable with anybody. And so they come to places like the internet and get mad at everybody else, because the truth is they want a real connection but don't know how to go about it. Right? Some people have unforgiveness in their heart. They just keep, not knowing how to get beyond what they felt somebody else did them wrong. And that's what they call victim mentality. Oftentimes, if you're always the person that everybody's doing something to, and you've never done anything to anybody else, and you always, why me? That's the victim, poor me mentality. I ain't saying nothing about doing no bad things to. What is wrong with John? Somebody get John some ginger tea. Somebody get John some ginger tea. The thing I said, time, place, and date. If research, you don't just do deep research like that. You have to sit down and actually do the research. So I said, give me a time, date, and place, because that's not something we can do today. Today, I already had a topic. It's called, what do you bring to the table? I am on topic. But if you will, please drop in the box the time, date, and the time period so that we can look. I wasn't talking about bad things. I was talking about single parenthood. And as a matter of fact, you brought up single parenthood. Sometimes people want to make you forget what the whole conversation was about. I didn't even mention Color Purple today. You see what John is doing? This is if in a relationship, if somebody's trying to communicate. Communication is key. And the inability to communicate effectively is when relationships break down. And why do I keep entertaining such conversations? Is because it illustrates why people in relationships break down. Because the inability to hear one another and to communicate with one another effectively. Now, other things are being brought up, none of which was being said today. Assumptions are being made. And it's like, are you trying to understand? Or are you intentionally trying to misrepresent what the person is saying? So this is indicative of what many people experience, and because they don't necessarily have the skills or tools, you just result to name calling, being angry, withdrawing, whatever it is the person results to, is because the communication is broken. Yeah. Yo, Benjamin, manala. Yo, John said me have memory loss, the backside. See the link. I'm about to write down, what is it, 118? See the link. Because again, why can't we move forward? Because we are not understanding one another. I asked for a time period, a location, so that we can deal with one thing at a time. One thing at a time. Did anybody else hear me ask for time, location? How many times did I ask for time and location? I said, where you want to go? South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland. Where you want to go? Mississippi. Let's get a place. Then, if you say it wasn't happening before 1960s, where you want to go? 1940s to 1900s to 1940s? What time period you want? What do you want? You want Reconstruction? Do you want the 1910s? Do you want the 20s? You want the Great Depression? What you want? Which one of these time periods do you want? Do we want to do a 20 year, 40 year? We want to do a generation? What I mean, this is how you research. That's all I'm asking for. And then when you research, it's a whole nother mode. If you research in a biased manner, you're only going to see information that's supporting what you already want. John said he wasn't married. I asked him last time. He said he wasn't married and he doesn't have children. That's what he told us last time. So I don't know if that's still the case. John might have went ahead and went to Vegas on us and got married last week. So I could be wrong. He could be having one on the way. But John, you could answer the question, John. Welcome to those who just joined us. Nobody clicking the link today. Look, I'm about to go stir my peas, y'all. Nobody clicking the link today. Wee! For those who just joined us, I'll read a little more while we're waiting. While we are waiting. I mean, John is really the only person. Not me. I say you. Not me. Don't be taking my location. You give a location. Don't be taking my location. Let's go ahead and read a little bit more here. That's not what I said. That wasn't even the question just now. Again, communication. I've said this a lot. We have to work on it. Men and women, women talking to women, men talking to men. Communication with respect. That's why I say be respectful. Because once people are offended, they're not going to hear anything else we say, right? Be respectful to the best of our ability. And actually try to hear what the person is saying, or try to hear where the person is coming from. Let me continue what I was reading. Many of us unconsciously take on our parents' pain. As small children, we develop our sense of self gradually. Back then, we had not learned how to separate from our parents and be connected to them at the same time. In this innocent place, perhaps we imagined that we could alleviate their unhappiness by fixing or sharing it. If we too carried it, they wouldn't have to carry it alone. But this is fantasized thinking, and it only leads to more unhappiness. Shared patterns of unhappiness are all around us. Sad mother, sad daughter, disrespected father, disrespected son. The relationship difficulties of parents mirrored by the children. The combinations are endless. When we merge with the parent, we unconsciously share an aspect of a negative aspect of that parent's life experience. We repeat or relive certain situations or circumstances without making the very link that can set us free. So essentially, like again, when we were asking what you bring to the table, the relationship between the parents, the expectations from the parents, the disappointments from the caregiver, even if the parent wasn't there, the person who was in control, or the authority figure, or the step parent, or the foster care, or the older sibling that raised you. All of these things are what we bring to the table when we sit down. Besides money, besides occupation, besides education, we bring all of these things in addition to who we are. So all of these things are kind of layered on who we are, and that's something to be considered while we're getting into these type of relationships, and something to look at when these relationships do not work. Throwing off the conversation for today. Today is, what do you bring to the table? I know oftentimes the conversation that's on the table is never addressed, and then other things that are brought out of context into the conversation. That's not what this conversation was about. The conversation was about, what do you bring to the table? Look, and we went around and talked about different things, but at this point in time, I'm not going to be running around chasing a rabbit. The link is in the box if you want to share your thoughts, because sometimes people get lost in typing, misinterpret typing, but it is what it is. My assertion is that people are people beyond color, and that a lot of these things are common for humanity, and not just black or white or FBA or any of those things. And then later on top of that thing is culture. Later on top of that is experience, collective experience. So with that said, if anybody else doesn't have anything else to say, we'll wait for John to drop in the description and tell us what part he wants to research specifically, so we could see if there were any single mothers out there, as that was what we were talking about today. But no, I laugh, y'all. That's what we were talking about today. John, I am not in no beefing with anybody. You see me chilling? I'm chilling. So what we are talking about today, I'll wait. If not, then I guess it's not that important to see whether or not there was any single mothers before 1960. You know what I mean? So with that said, anybody else have anything else to say? Let me go ahead and play another commercial. If you have some type of business and you would like to share with the audience, feel free to hit me up at info@theyummycottage.com, info@theyummycottage.com, and we can have a conversation about what it is that you need. All right. So I guess that's where we are with that. Just something to kind of consider as we are having these conversations. I think that men or women complement each other perfectly when they are healthy and in alignment. I think that it's easy to misunderstand one another and view each other as the enemy, especially when one, the other, or both feel as though they're not getting what they need or want. I think that is something that we need to work on actively, but you can't work on it if the other person or party is not willing to. I think dialogues such as this that are open and respect one another, not necessarily going in and trying to team up, all the people who hate men against all the people who hate women. I don't think that's uh, productive. It's not going to lead us anywhere. But you do need the person who is having and facilitating these discussions have to have come to that realization. If not, they're just really going to divide the crowd, which is, a dead end. Well, for all intents and purposes, John, just tell us one more time cohesively, because you're typing a lot and I must have missed it. Right? So what location, what time period would you like to research? We're going to do some research. Okay? I didn't make the research up, okay? We're going to use some historical records to take a batch test of people who were born during the time period that you select, because I don't want you to be like, Amuna, you done made it up. The time period that you select. And then I want you to clearly state, because what I've learned is people move the goalposts. So I want you to clearly state, because it's going to be in the chat, clearly state your position. Because you say I misunderstand you and I'm over here making up stuff. So I need you to clearly state your position as it relates to single motherhood before 1960. Can you clearly state for the listening audience, if you don't mind, what's your position before 1960? Where would you like us to look? And we can go ahead and collectively look to see if there was any single mothers in that location before the time that you specify, if that works for you. I don't see nothing. Anybody else got something to say while we waiting on John to give us all the specifics? What I learned too, hosting a lot of debates, is that we need to be clear, very clear about what you're debating. Because then when we find the evidence, people are like, I didn't say that. Oh, I bet you didn't. So therefore, let's be clear. What are you debating again? Okay, let's see. I clearly state the fourth time. No problem. Let's be patient. The South. No, man, we can't do the South. That's too general. During or after slavery and before 1950. We can't say the South. I get which one of the places? I can't just search the South. Give me a location. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Maryland, Virginia, Florida, even though Florida, touch and go. Where we want to go, Louisiana. I mean, give us something. The email is info@theyummycottage.com. Let me type it for you. We have some affordable promotion pack. Info. Hold on, sis. Let me write it in. Info. We need to be more specific. That's a general search. If we can, respectfully, can we just pick something? Yeah, investing. Thank you for joining us. We trying to figure out what the argument is too. So we were having a discussion. It seems to be an ongoing one. It seems to be an ongoing discussion. So at this point, we were talking about what we bring to the table beyond money. I was going in the direction of spiritual and emotional inheritances that we got from our ancestors that we bring to the table in relationships. Now, John wants to talk about, he's saying that I'm misrepresenting the percentages of melanated women. We somehow got into feminism, as always, and I was misrepresented according to his assertion. The percentages of women that were single mothers, black women, before the 60s. And so, for purposes of clarity, I'm asking John to clearly state his position and for him to select a location and a specific time period. It cannot just be from the South all the way up to the 1950s, because I'm not going to go and look at somebody else's research. I'm going to go and look at the research, fresh new research. We're going to go into it and look. So I would like something specific that I can look at so that we can batch test the amount of women who were married, the amount of women who had children out of wedlock. That's what we're trying to do. But John, was that a good summation of what was happening up until that point, up until this point? Anybody who's been here, feel free to let me know, because I don't want to misrepresent. It's funny, John, again, this is part of the problem of communication, is that people jump out the window, people lying, you're doing this, you're doing that. And this is how conversations go mad, just by, misrepresenting somebody's position because you may not agree with it. So I'm not going to count how many times you keep saying that I'm lying, but there's no proof of me lying, right? I'm just going to put it on record that I'm not lying, and that you would have to prove that I was lying. You know what I mean? Because I don't have anything to lie about. I don't have anything to lie about. There's no reason to lie. As I said, I take the time to comb through the data and the information so that I can get what I need. But if you come with a predetermined thought process, you're not going to want to do that. And I'm getting in connection. I know. I mean, it is what it is. This is just an illustration of why conversations go left. Like, if I don't want to go and get in my KS bag, but this is what we result to: shame, insults. What he say? Something else. Shame, insults, and whatever. Okay, so now we're getting there. 90%. So Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina. Can we get you to pick one of those? Did I say you embraced single parenting, or again, misrepresentation? I would ask that you get a time marker of me saying that you embraced single parenting. If you could, can you get a time marker of me saying that you embraced single parenting? My contention is that there were single parents around, and to pretend that there weren't single parents before this time period is a misrepresentation of history. So all of this is recorded. So if you're so sure that is exactly what I said, it shouldn't be a problem for you to give us a time marker so that we can go back and take a listen at me saying that we embraced single parenthood, because that's what you wrote here. That may be what you heard. That's not necessarily what I said. So this is all a lesson in communication, miscommunication, intent to misrepresent somebody else's position. All of this is what's going on. And, it is what it is. But until we can get beyond this point, it's going to be a loop. So now you narrowed it down to 3. If we can narrow it down to 1 and state your position clearly, not what I said, but what you say, then we can go forward with this. Because like I said, I got a lot of stuff to do, John. I don't have the time like I used to. I'm winding down right now. Sorry, but I don't have the time like I used to I just would to be real specific. Really specific. Yes, right now John is making the assertion that to my understanding, before 1960, that there weren't single parents, or there weren't. I will let him tell it, because then I don't want to misrepresent him as he's misrepresenting me, because, but yeah, if you can state your position, Oh, great. We have a place. Yes. Okay, John, we have a place. We have a place. We have Louisiana. Can we have a time period? Can we have a time period, please? Okay, Malia. Is Charlotte getting ready now? Did she cut the apples? Go tell her to cut the apples. We have a place, Louisiana. Can we have a time period? 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 You see, what oftentimes they show on YouTube is women yelling and screaming and carrying on, and and see, this is why so-called black women da 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 da, and then we flock to the thing and we're like, oh yeah, this is what's going on in YouTube. 1850s was still slavery. 1850s was still slavery. If we go to, you said after slavery, 1850, 1865, the Civil War, it ends. So 1850s is still slavery. So if you're telling me that this is after slavery, I'm gonna need a time after slavery, if that's okay with you. Civil War went about for 4 years, from 61 to about 65. So Louisiana in 1850 would have been still dealing with enslavement. And I only say that during or after slavery would have been, different situations, because in some places slaves weren't allowed to officially marry, therefore there wouldn't be any record of, yeah, Judah, I'm about to wind down right now. There wouldn't be any record of, a lot of records of marriage, because during that time, people weren't getting married on record. They would just jump in the broom. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and put that in the, again, can we just, so that we can solve one thing at a time, because the only way we're going to move forward if we get concrete data, right? So I'm just trying to get to pinpoint some information so that we can get some concrete data. Okay, so now we're into the 1890s. So you want 1890s Louisiana, is that correct? And what we're looking for, tell me what it is that we're looking for specifically. The marriage rate or the single parenthood rate, which are two different things. Are we looking for marriage rate or single parenthood? For those who just joined us, welcome to the conversation. We winding down. We trying to make progress. That's all it is. We trying to be patient and making some progress on some of these very stale arguments that continue to be circulated throughout the internet, not even the internet, the internet, right? And people are just repeating it, not pulling out any information. Okay, so checking the marriage rate, as you keep insinuating that we were kind, sort of happy with single month. I'm gonna need the time marker, even if you don't want to go into all of those things. Just go into today, what I said today, if you can, and give me the time markers. And because what you keep saying is your perception of what I'm saying. Insinuating, that's your perception. Asserting, that's your perception. All of these have to do with perception. That doesn't necessarily have to do with what I say. So I can't defend what you perceive. I can only defend what I say. So I'm gonna leave you with that. I can't defend what you perceive, John. I can only defend what I've said. Perception has to do with your mentality, not mine. So since the conversation, marriage and single motherhood, if we look for single mothers or if we look for marriage, this is two different levels of research. So since you talked about single motherhood, we're going to look for whether or not there were single mothers in Louisiana during the 1890s. Is that good? Because when I do it, I don't want to hear that that's not what you said, and there's no goalpost moving right now. Once I start looking in that direction, I'm gonna bring it here so that we can take a look at anything that I found. And given that you gave 3, I'm like they said, since you gave 3, we're gonna look at also these other 2 locations that you gave, which was, let me go back. The other 2 locations that you gave was Mississippi and South Carolina. So just for good measure, we're gonna look at that as well. Hey, what's going on, India? Okay, and thank you. You gave a video, Grandma's Secrets. You kept saying throughout the video that Black men collectively were leaving Grandma to a poppy, and that's false. Time marker me. Time marker me. Because I was having a discussion with with another man who, a professional. His name escapes me right now. Me and names. My apologies. But time marker me on that. In the meantime, I'm having some downtime, so I'll put a little research into 1890s, and I'm gonna put a little research into Louisiana. I'll do 2 just to start off in South Carolina, so we can have some comparative analysis going on. So if that's good with you, we'll come back and take a look at it. I went through all of that because it's very important to get specifics. So with that said, I'll see you guys again next time. I'm gonna go do some research after I wind down because I got a little time today. Okay? All right, everybody have a blessed day. Wait, I'm gonna play one more video, Yummy Couch video on my way out. Hold on. Yeah.